Welcome to episode 186 of the Fully In It podcast. Today, I'm pulling back the curtain on my most recent business decisions and why I'm simplifying. I'm also sharing how I plan to market with no social media and what it's really been like being back to work in my business with a new baby and 3 older kids. Buckle up, this is going to be a fun episode. Welcome to the Fully In It podcast with Kate Saffel, a show for powerful moms growing life-changing businesses while showing up intentionally for their families. I teach you how to create a family-first and profitable business in less time by leveraging simple strategy, mom life-friendly systems, and above all, the mindset of going fully in it. You ready? So I know that I have shared bits and pieces of this in different places on my email list and with certain people about some of the decisions I've been making in my business since I had my 4th baby in mid-February. I'm about 3 months-ish postpartum, and the first 3 months I really was just thinking about how I wanted my business to look long-term now that my family life has changed. But at the same time, I also told myself no big decisions for the first few months because, if you're a mom like me, you understand, right? Everything is shifting so fast in that postpartum period, your hormones and things can feel one way one day, and then the next day it feels totally different. And so I was very aware that my thoughts and feelings on my business and my motherhood would be shifting quite a bit as I adapted to my new identity as having a little baby again and my family size changing. And so I put a pause on making any business decisions. Now, I did allow myself to envision and dream and journal, write down ideas. I came up with a bunch of ideas in my postpartum period. I'm always very creative. It feels very fruitful for me, especially with all of the time I was spending in bed with my new daughter. It just gave me lots of bandwidth to think about the future and really just how I wanted things to look. But then in the last few weeks, I really got some clarity around how I want things to look in this next season of life for my business and for my family. And some of this is influenced by shifts happening that I kind of knew were coming, but they weren't quite formalized yet. And now that they are. So one of those shifts is that my oldest has gotten quite serious in ballet, and she's 14. She's going to be a freshman in high school this next year, which is just insane to think about. And, her goal is to become a professional dancer in classical ballet. She's wanted this since she was 2 years old. And this means we're making decisions for that, outcome, that dream that she has that are probably a bit different than your typical kid who's thinking about college and that sort of thing. One of the decisions we've made is for her to go pre-professional with her ballet career, which means that next school year, she will spend half the day dancing and she will spend the other half doing homeschool. So about 4-ish hours a day, she will be dancing with a company and, deepening her skill and her technique and preparing to hopefully join a company someday once she is out of high school. So this means for me as the mom, and I know you probably, can relate depending on your season of life, it means that I'm going to be the one driving her back and forth. And so I started thinking about what does my business need to look like and how does it need to shift to create the space that I need, to help her with her endeavors and also just to show up for my other kiddos because, I have an incoming 3rd grader and 6th grader as well, and then the baby. And so there's a lot of moving pieces in my life. It's very full and, we homeschool. And so that's the other consideration is that my kids' education is, I would say, I don't know if intensifying is the right word, but there's a lot that they're learning right now, and I need to be very present for it. And so that is kind of came, up on my radar as I'm like looking ahead to next fall. And then the other part of it is Kirk, my husband, started a new job with some travel, which means that sometimes he's out of town and I'm holding down the fort. I'm the one driving, back and forth to all the lessons and the different things, dinner, all this stuff. And I need to be able to handle everything that is on my plate if he is not in town. And so I wanted to share all of this just because I know that you may have your own version of challenging circumstances. You may have a lot on your plate too. Maybe you have a new baby. Maybe you have a high schooler like me. Maybe you're working a full-time job and you're starting a business on the side. Whatever it is for you, I just want to say you're not alone. And there's really no perfect circumstances. I mean, maybe someone out there has like the ideal setup with everything in place to, grow their business. But I've seen people who do have the perfect setup and they still don't take action in their business because of fear or doubt or insecurity, imposter syndrome. So just know that even if you do have the perfect circumstances, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to take action. So I say, you might as well go for it and you might as well figure it out regardless of what season of motherhood you're in, regardless of what your home life looks like, regardless of the time you have available to give the business. There's no better time than right now. And that's really what I tell myself is, I can figure it out. It just means that some of the pieces of my business are in a pivot, and that's okay. So let's talk about some of the business decisions that I've made. And maybe you've heard of some of these. I've kind of trickled it out here and there, and maybe you haven't yet. The first one I've been pretty public about, and I've shared here on the podcast as well as with my email list, is that I quit Instagram. That was a big one. I have been on Instagram since 2014 when my intention back then was to start a travel blog, because we were planning on traveling full time and I wanted to talk about travel and minimalism and some different things that were really on my radar back then. And then over the years, it just morphed, as I started a business and then my business changed and it's just has ebbed and flowed with whatever it is that I'm doing in that moment. I've always loved Instagram, but I noticed over the last year, I stopped loving it. And I tried to pinpoint what it was, and I just felt like Instagram had changed to such a point that it didn't really resemble what it used to be like, and I didn't really want to be there anymore. Now, I'm all about, doing hard things. Sometimes in business, we need to do things that maybe we don't always want to do, because you're in a season of growing or scaling up your business. That just comes with the territory, right? It's not always easy street. But I knew that I didn't need Instagram to continue my business growth, that I had built such a steady foundation with other methodologies that I didn't need to be there if I didn't want to be there. And I really wanted to honor that for myself, because if you have ever coached with me, you've been in one of my spaces, I'm always going to tell you that you are the expert on your home and business. And sometimes we're like, I don't want to be the expert, but it's the truth. You know better than anyone else, including me, what is right for you and your business. I am just here to, one, help you listen to that and to hear it, to honor your intuition, and then two, to actually follow through on it and do the things you told yourself you were going to do and hit those big goals and dreams that have been on your heart for a while. So that's how I love serving my mom clients. And so again, Instagram, it just wasn't feeling it anymore, especially with having a new baby. I did a podcast episode on that about how I completely took a break from most tech when my daughter, my newest baby, was really itty bitty and I wasn't really in that newborn phase. And then I just decided, I love this so much, I don't want to go back. And even now, my phone is still very minimal. There's, I can call, I can text. I did add a few apps back that I use with my clients like Telegram and Voxer, but those don't tempt me, so I'm still not really spending any time on my phone like I used to. So I quit Instagram. And you're probably curious, okay, Kate, what are you replacing that with? I have gotten that question quite a bit. And I'm going to just give you like a little teaser of what is coming because I'm still building out some things and working on some back end stuff, but I want to give you something to look forward to. So I am going to be creating some pretty consistent content via my website. That's all I'm going to say. It'll be something that you can go directly to happierandmotherhood.com and find. You won't need a social media app to access it. And I'm just very excited for us to have that, to not feel like you got to go into Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or a membership or something to have access to this. And this is going to be my way of, think of it this way, like being your big sister in business and motherhood. And I really hope that it serves you. I hope that you love it so much. And I cannot wait to share more soon. So definitely make sure you are on my email list because that is the first place I will be sharing more information about this new project. And if you look in the show notes for this episode, so if you look in the app in which you're listening, you will see a link that will sign you up for my email list. And I just suggest you jump on that right now. Then the second decision I made, and this one honestly surprised me, but once I made it, it felt so right, is that I am in the process of shutting down Expand Mentoring membership. This is my business membership that has been around for 3 years now. When I first launched it in May 2022, it was originally like a personal growth membership for moms called Happier in Motherhood. And it was just all of the different strategies and things that I teach, mindset, to help moms go after their dreams and hit their goals and have a happier life at home. And I loved that, but I noticed all the women in it were wanting to grow businesses. And so I rebranded it into Expand, and then that's what it was for the next 2.5 years. But as I was thinking about all of my life changes and I was thinking about what I want my business to look like going forward, the amount of time it takes to run Expand has felt heavy at times. There's so much in the back end. There's a lot of responsibility I feel to helping the women in there, grow their businesses and see success. But with the way that the membership is set up, I didn't always feel like I could get into their businesses and help them in the way that I love to help. And so that just felt like a limitation. And then I found that it kind of turned, for me personally, it turned to stress. And I'd be thinking about their businesses, in my family time and just worrying. And so I went back and forth because on paper, Expand doesn't look like it takes a lot of time to run because it's 1 call per week. And then I even hired an assistant to help during my maternity leave. So she was coaching in the little forum that we had. So and everything was set up. All the videos are pre-recorded. Everything is done. It's everything that every business coach or guru will tell you to do. You need a lower cost membership that's infinitely scalable and you can always bring more people in. Again, I found for me that the hidden cost was the stress that I was feeling, the constant selling to keep it full, just all of the different logistical details that needed to be kept track of. And it just wasn't worth it. And I talked to my bookkeeper too about the numbers behind it. And it just was not as profitable of an offer for me as my mastermind and my one-to-one. And so when I'm thinking about the value of time and the limited time that I have, it made more sense for me to let that go and pour my time and attention into just 2 offers, which is my one-to-one business coaching and then my 5-woman mastermind, which is called the Family Fueled CEO. And so it's bittersweet. It's really bittersweet to let it go. And I loved the women in that container, but it just felt right. It just felt right to honor the season of motherhood that I'm in and simplify my business even more. And once I made the decision, I felt so excited because it just reminded me of a past season in my business. I would say probably like 2021, maybe. I had private and I had just offered a 7-mom group. Back then it was called the Purposeful Moms Club. And I loved my business so much then. I loved it. Like, it just felt so good to have a small container, small group of moms that, they could bond with each other. They could really connect and do the work together in a 6-month time frame. I love that format. And then one-to-one is always something I just enjoy so much because I can really, get to know the women so well and get to know their families and their business and their goals and their dreams and their fears and their doubts and all the things. And so it's just, to me, is such an effective way to support someone. So that's what I'm going to be doing for the foreseeable future. And I will be offering the Family Fueled CEO twice a year, and there's 5 spots. So if that's something you're interested in, I really recommend that you go to my website and you look at the page for it and then you apply, because applying will essentially waitlist you for the next round and for one of the available spots that will hopefully be open. The next round will start in November. Because I just started a round at the beginning of May, and it's been going so good seeing these women, like, they're perfect for each other and the way they support one another, their connection. It's just so gratifying and fulfilling for me to see. So that's the one option. And then my private business coaching, I'm really only offering a handful of spots at a time. And so that one is also on wait list until August is when I think I'll have my next spot available. So if that's something you're interested in, I would go to my website, happierandmotherhood.com, look at the page for private coaching, and then also apply for a spot so that I know that you are interested in. So those are the 2 big decisions that I have made in my business. It feels so good to me. I feel so much lighter. I am not a person who likes a complicated business. Whenever someone starts talking about layers of funnels and, value stacking and all this stuff, I'm like, dude, can we just make this easier and more simple? Because as moms, we don't need complicated businesses to see success. And for me, I ran the numbers of what I'll make running these 2 offers per year. And it's not chump change. Like, it's substantial, and it's still life-changing for my family, and it helps us hit our financial goals. And just, to me, it's like how amazing is it that I can run a business where I'm doing maybe 3 hours of calls per week. I'm primarily a stay-at-home mom. I create content, early in the morning or during nap time. And I'm working in such a limited fashion in my business so I can really be a present mom. And I'm still making well over 6 figures every single year. To me, that is just insane. Like, what a gift that we live in a time and age where we can do that, where we have the technology and the tools to create a business that gives us that level of freedom and income. It still blows my mind this many, 7 years in to my business. So I think that's it for all I have to share about these changes that I have made. If you have questions, I would love to answer them for you. So this is the part where you can reach out to me, hello@happierandmotherhood.com. I would love to hear from you. Let me know what questions you have. Let me know what this stirs up in you, what it inspires. And if this podcast is giving you value, I invite you to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen that will let you leave a review. And just let other people know that this podcast is worth their time. It's so helpful to me. And I love, I'll be honest, I will check the podcast app and I'm like, has anyone left a new review? Because it makes my day. And it just, it's like, I'm recording all these podcast episodes and sometimes you're like, is anybody listening? And so for me, it's just very fulfilling to get that feedback and know that it is valuable to you. I hope that you are doing incredible, that life is so good for you right now, and that you just trust yourself. You trust the gifts you've been given, the insight that is coming forward, and the callings that are on your heart. You are right where you need to be, Mama. And I'm telling you, now is the time to go after whatever is calling you forward and do it with courage. I will see you next week.